All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Looks like I need to make that intro video a little bit longer. Chad, I really appreciate the Good Morning Vietnam reference. I grew up watching that movie with my dad. Absolutely loved it. My only challenge with it is they then get, the movie turns serious. They should have just kept it as the comedy the whole time. Frank, good afternoon. Good to see you. Susanna, how's it going? Scott, good to see you. And we're here to talk about the ACP-420, and I got the number right this time. This is for Jira Service Projects, so Jira Service Management. And there are some interesting updates or changes I get to share, which I tripped over while I was preparing for this yesterday. Is this where I want to be? I'm still having issues with Chrome, so if the slide deck or something just randomly crashes, I will do my best to get it back as quickly as possible. We're going to start. Hey, Captain Penegal. Hope I got that right. Welcome from Montreal. Hope the weather's treating you well up there. I have a friend, cousin who goes to McGill, and he was not used to snow. So we are going to jump right into a couple of slides just to orient as soon as I get them up. And then we will talk about connecting knowledge bases and workflows to our Jira Service Management projects. Or rather, connecting knowledge bases and separately talk about workflows. As always, we're going to start with a couple of slides just to orient. Let me get the right one here. There we go. But first, for folks who don't know me, my name is Rob. I've been doing these trainings for several months, and it's because in my career in IT, I never got training. No one ever taught me how to do this stuff, and that made it really hard to do my job, especially when I started to become, more of a project admin, more of a Jira admin. I was expected to help teams use Jira better, and I had no clue how to do that. I also don't have a lot of spare time, so earning these certifications is challenging, and that's why I'm doing this. It started as a commitment device, something to force me to go learn them, and it's turned into something I just enjoy doing. So I've got the ACA-420 going on right now, and tomorrow we're continuing with the ACP-420 today. ACP-420 is tomorrow for Confluence. And then after the big event next week, I'll be doing the ACA-900. So please keep a lookout for other live learnings. Please use the chat to communicate. Drop your questions in there, your follow-ups. And if you know an answer and I seem to be struggling, please chime in. Again, we're all learning, even myself. So if I say something that seems off, just please challenge me. Of course, like and subscribe if you could on the channel. That helps me out. Just hit that like button and subscribe. But also, if there's other certifications you want to learn about, other things you want to dig into, please let me know. Frank, the ACA-420 was actually the first Atlassian certification I earned, so it's got a little special place in my heart. The naming convention, ACA is Atlassian Certified Associate. ACP is Atlassian Certified Professional. So the ones with the P in them are more for the admins. The ones with the A in them are more for general users. I think we'll start with knowledge bases today. We might touch a bit on emailing, and then we'll talk about workflow configuration. Honestly, workflow configuration to me is kind of like the schemes. It's something I don't have as much hands-on experience with, so I spend more time reviewing these than I do other things. And I'll show you some of the resources I put together on the website to help me with that. But they are some kind of dark magic to me, and it's more that I just don't understand them because I don't use them. And kind of the bigger news is that Atlassian has updated all of its learning paths. So if we go to, which way am I going here? Atlassian's, and how am I rated higher than Atlassian? Come on. Atlassian's page, all of the Atlassian University stuff has been updated. So if I scroll down, start prepping for free is here. But then some of the resources are different. So if I dig into the learning paths, you'll notice it looks a little bit different. And I'll drop this link in our chat just so it's easier to get to. but each of these is been refreshed. So I can't tell if they're using a different tool on the back end. Um, so far, I like this more. Like if I dig into the knowledge base, which is where we'll start, the layout's different. It's telling me how long it is, and I can expand to see what's in there. So I've gone through these. I like it more. So I'll just click Get Started onto the knowledge base. But then you'll notice on the left, we now get where are we in the course? Like where are the lessons? So for me, it's been easier as a learner to navigate this kind of stuff. Christina, welcome. Just walking through the new updated Atlassian University content. So this is what we'll be using in this course and what I use when I study. And to that note, I use a pen and paper, so you'll see me like scribbling stuff down. But please explore these changes. It's a new tool, so it kind of surprised me the other day when I was coming in here, but it was a very pleasant surprise. So we'll just get started with knowledge bases. Every job I've had in my career has had some kind of knowledge base, and I enjoy making them. I like sitting down and writing documentation. I know many folks don't, though. But a KB or a knowledge base is a great resource for a service desk. So when we think of Jira Service Management, we've got the agents, the people who are answering tickets. They need support because they need to know how to do stuff. Welcome, Hayes. Hope it must be nighttime for you over there, huh? Hope you're having a good evening. Also, I'm going to maybe mispronounce this, but happy Eid to everyone. I believe it's the end of Ramadan, so if you are celebrating or observing that, I hope you have a good time. So knowledge bases support the agents, but they also support customers. So we need to remember that when we link something like Confluence, we're helping both sides. We're helping the people putting in the tickets, but also helping the people working on the tickets. Customers will benefit by getting an article pop up. Let's see if I can get my Zoom to work. Oh, it works today. As they type in tickets in the portal, it will start suggesting articles that could help them. And this is really powerful because this can deflect the ticket. So the term is ticket deflection. It fills in tier 0 of our support stack. So when I think of support, I think of my first agent touching it is my tier 1. Then I have more specialization at tier 2 and super specialization at tier 3. We can actually have a tier below that, which would be tier 0. And this is where there is no need for a ticket. Someone is so comfortable with it, or they can get what they need on their own. It's self-service. It's something like that, that they can just answer their own question. Now, there is another tool in Jira Service Management, and I'm dropping a link to a live learning I did on the virtual agents. I don't know if the virtual agents are included in the exam. It's just something good to know about, but this is basically a bot that can help answer questions. And it's the same idea of deflecting it. So that's where it's advantageous for customers. Agents get access to these directly on the side panel of the ticket. Frank, would an AI agent be tier 0.5? I don't think so. I think the concept is no human has to be involved, and agents aren't human yet. But it is another way we can help serve our customers. Now, for the agent, they can see knowledge base articles on the ticket panel, and they can search through them. Oops, sorry, there we go. So this puts the information right there on their screen on the same ticket. And it tries to figure out what's a related article. Now, of course, Atlassian is going to only talk about using Confluence. This is this is Atlassian's knowledge base. They've started calling it a collaboration platform, so you might see that term floating around. And the thinking there is it's not just about putting the information on a shelf in the back and hoping someone finds it. It's about making it a place the team goes to build things together. Also, every group I've worked with that has Jira happens to have Confluence, so that makes it very easy to argue, hey, we should be connecting these things. And some of the reasons that Atlassian will give you is it's all centralized. It's in one spot. You don't have to have your team going into Google Drive. And this is where it's like thinking about the agent's experience. Like if you've ever worked on a help desk and you don't have good documentation, it's really frustrating. You have to go find it. Whereas if it's all in one spot, that just makes your team that much more effective. They aren't running around looking for these things. It makes it easier for them to update it on their own. And you can actually, from the Jira ticket, add new knowledge base articles. And it also controls the version history. It keeps track of the changes. So we're going to pop into, which way am I going here? Jira, and just take a look at this. And my Chrome died. That was wonderful. Um, I know everyone just saw that. All I did was click a button and the whole thing just died on me. Yes, and I have to reinstall Chrome. That's the next thing I need to do because I haven't done that yet. Okay, we're back. Maybe it just doesn't like Jira Service Management. It did it again. All right. Third time's a charm. Okay, we've got that back. Maybe it's the full screen. We'll try this. Okay. So in Jira Service Management, time to switch to Opera or Edge. No, I'm going to go find an old version of Internet Explorer, Chad. I miss the good old days of IE5. Frank, it is the third live stream in a row that it has just straight up collapsed on me, so I need to make time to figure this out. I'm going to open up my company managed project. This should be the same in both, but what I'll see is this knowledge base under knowledge. And I have knowledge base settings. Here we go. Sorry, let me go back one to show you how I got there. The first one I went to was not as a project admin. So this is what a agent could find. They could come through here and search through. But you'll notice if they have permissions, they could also create articles. So it does allow our agents in Jira to start creating knowledge base articles. I'm going to go back though, and then open up my project settings and look for channels and self-service and knowledge base. Here we go. So this is where we set up Jira Service Management to tell it which spaces can it use. Now, if I have the, let me get rid of you. If I have access, I can create a Confluence space right from here. So if I realize, hey, we don't have one, I can make it. I can also link another space. So if I want to add another space, I can just come in here and put it in. So what this lets me do is limit the scope or limit what this project has access to. Now, if they don't have access to it in Confluence, they won't see it anyway in terms of the agents. So usually I'll pick the space that has as much support material as possible. And a big warning, it's only as good as the information in Confluence. So when I link a space like this, I make sure that the space is as clean as possible. It's been organized, it has labels and tags, and it's got good info. The other thing I can do here is control which request forms it shows up on. So I might say, get IT help doesn't have suggested articles. I can't think up off the top of my head a reason I wouldn't want to allow suggestions. But you can also restrict by label the articles that pop up. So maybe I only want articles that have the word account in a label to show up, and I don't have that label in this particular instance. But this is another way to tailor the experience. The search is okay when someone types something in, but it's possible to get the wrong article. And really the whole point of this is to make sure that person doesn't have to put in a ticket. So we want to be able to deflect it by having a well-structured knowledge base, not just something that shows them random gibberish. It's showing us how to make a new knowledge base. In most environments, going back to Jira, I don't have the ability to make a space. So many folks might not even see this if you're a project admin. If you're a Jira admin, it's more likely you'll have organizational admin access to Confluence and you can do this. But if you don't see the button or if it doesn't work, this would be something you go talk to IT about or some org admin in your company. Building a good knowledge base. This is where Confluence tends to break down. I have been in companies where in an all hands in front of 10,000 people, IT gets asked, why is Confluence so disorganized? And it's because no one takes time to organize it. And that's where they're calling it out right here, whether your documentation is relevant. Um, excuse me. Now, I have a whole other live trainings on how to structure Confluence. For the purpose of this exam, though, we need to consider, what is the plan for our documentation. We can't just put it in Confluence and hope it works. It has to have things like keywords. It has to have things like labels to help the system find it. So this is where there's a lot of frustration with this particular feature of tying in a knowledge base. It's because organizations aren't making the time to make sure it's organized and structured in a way that supports the users. They just kind of put content in there. Morning, Justin. You missed it. We've solved Jira. We just solved it. It's now done. But good to see you, my friend. I don't know if you've noticed, Justin, but there's a new Atlassian learning, I'll call it platform, I don't know, experience. So everything looks a little bit different. So far, we're enjoying it, though. All right, we're going to talk about templates. Templates are just pre-structured pages. Templates are nice for people making content because it's just all the formatting they need right in one spot. They're nice for consumers as well because they start to understand. For example, if I have a how-to article, Morning, Martin. Atlassian Mojo, how's it going? Did everyone just pop in right at 6:15 in my time? Or are you just finally popping into the chat? Templates make it easier to make content. I use one all the time for how-to articles and things like meeting notes. I just push one button and it drops a template in that I can then work on. So if I flip back to Confluence real quick. Oh no, please don't crash. Whew. So here I am in Confluence. We don't need to know too much about it for the exam, but I'll come in here and just push this create button at the top. And I'll just make a new page. There's other types of content in Confluence, but now we're just talking about those templates. I'm going to click on all templates down here at the bottom, and I'll have to move my big fat head. But what we see here on the right are our templates. And if you mouse over them, you'll see what they look like. I can just click on them, and that will drop the template onto the page. So it's going to format everything for me. And this speeds up my ability to make new content. So it makes it easier for my agents in Jira to come in here and quickly add a new how-to, a new did you know, a new whatever. What else did it need us to know about these? There is a minor technicality. There's something called a blueprint. These are the templates that come with Confluence. So when you first open Confluence, you'll have like 140 templates. Those are blueprints that are made by Atlassian. So those just come out of the box. For the exam, the difference in Confluence permissions, the site admins in Confluence can manage the global blueprints and templates. The space admins can only control things in their own space. And a space is synonymous to a project. It's just a way to organize Confluence. So just keep in mind, site admins have global, space admins just to the space. Kari, you missed Chrome crashing again. You didn't miss too much. I hope you don't get a repeat of that. The biggest thing, if you're joining, is just the new learning experience. So what we're seeing is the new Atlassian university experience we have. We talked a little bit about blueprints. Again, these are just our templates. And these can be turned on or off. So you may or may not have all of them. If something's missing, just talk to a Confluence admin. Ooh, they want us to know how to edit them. Okay. I'm back in Confluence, and I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm looking for space settings. This is identical to our project settings that we have in a Jira project. And I'm just going to look for look and feel templates. This is where all the templates live. I have ones that are user created at the top, so you can have your own templates for your own things. I always encourage this if your team does something a lot, the same type of documentation. Just give them a template so it's quicker to build. But I can enable or disable the blueprints here. And if I click on edit, I can go change them. So this is something else when we think of our agent experience. We want to make sure that they can quickly and easily do what they need to do. Part of that might be changing these blueprints so when they make the page, it only has the stuff that they need to use and do. So you could come through here and just delete a bunch of stuff or add things to the template to make it easier for your agents so they don't have to do it every single time. And not all blueprints are customizable, and that's wonderful. I'm going to link a live training I did on how to use Confluence templates. Honestly, I could talk for a very long time. But if you want to know more about them, that's a great place to start. Frank is saying you can add labels to custom templates. You certainly can. So when the page is made with a template, it'll already have the right label on it. For example, hardware or SSO or troubleshooting. Adding those labels helps people find things and also helps the system find things. We recommend customizing the how-to and troubleshooting templates to make them relevant. 100% agree with that. And you can make your own custom templates. So again, talk to your team and figure out what knowledge they need to create and share and collaborate on, and give them their own templates. Maintaining your knowledge base. Honestly, this is where most groups just completely fall flat. I can only open one at a time. But just like in Jira, the tool isn't the only thing. Like, we have to consider the process. How do we get people to use it? How do we make sure it stays up to date? How do we make sure all of our content is in the right spot? So these are kind of some best practices we should be doing, like getting all of our content into Confluence so it's all in one area. Being consistent with our customizations. I'm very bad at that. I don't have a style guide. I should probably get one. Finding your voice. How you present the information. So this is where you'll talk to tech writers or writers, and they'll have very clear ideas of how you phrase things and what words you use or don't use to make sure it's a consistent experience. Make it easy for customers. So especially for internal customers, they probably have access to Confluence. So it's likely they're going in and looking at the same things. So encouraging your agents to send people to Confluence, remind them that it exists, showing them how to use it is very helpful. And the biggest challenge is just keeping this thing up to date. This is where, again, it takes maintenance and effort. It's just like going through and grooming our Jira tickets. But make sure you're every 3 months looking at your Confluence articles and making sure they're refreshed, or talking to your agent and saying, hey, what's missing or out of date? Because this is where it becomes frustrating and less than useful if it's not updated. What are we looking at here? Labeling. All right, so in Jira, labeling our articles. Here we are back in Jira, and I'm just going to go to knowledge base. And this is where I can make an article, but I can also add categories. This is not something that I have done. So this gives us the ability to build buckets of articles within Jira. So from here, I would just look for, and I'm just using meeting notes as an example. This is probably not a good thing to do, but I'm just saying, hey, these articles all relate to meeting notes. And so I'll make this easier for my agents to find by putting it in this category. And then I can feature it. I can make it pop up on the customer portal as something that they should be looking at, they should be doing. So now if I go to my portal, I'm going to have these, oh, I shouldn't have clicked that. That could have crashed. Whew. I can now see that article is right up there at the top, in addition to my virtual agent. But again, another way to surface to customers, hey, these things are important. This is useful information that you need. Let's see what we've learned. A bunch of stuff. All right, controlling access. Just like Jira has access permissions, Confluence has them as well. A Confluence space or instance can be public. So it's possible to share your stuff in Confluence kind of anonymously with anyone. And this is useful for external customers. If I have a product that I'm building and I have a how-to in Confluence, I don't want to give everyone a license, so I just make it publicly accessible. The challenge there is everything can be seen. So you want to be extra careful when you use that option. But internally, you can have different permissions. So you might allow everyone in the company to view, but only the service desk agents to edit the content. And that's another way to control it. Public access in Confluence is called anonymous access. So this is probably something we want to be aware of. I'm going to pull up that chat real quick here, Frank, if I can. Here we go. So Frank's comment goes a bit deeper into how we manage our knowledge base, but the labels we use are important. So the phrase account might be too broad. We probably want something like Google account or Google user account, something more specific. So when the agents see it, they know instantly, oh, it's exactly for Google users or Google admin. It's not just for anyone. But that's a good call out, Frank. Thank you. So again, anonymous access means anyone can access the page. And if we go back, project settings, channel, self-service, knowledge base. Interesting. I haven't done this from the Jira side before. Knowledge base, knowledge base, knowledge base. Was it here? Oh, team manage project in the sidebar. Okay, fine. There we go. Team managed. Am I blind? Oops, sorry. Am I blind? Knowledge base. So in this particular project, I haven't linked to space yet. I'm just going to go grab my own personal space. Huh. Well, I know how to do this on the Confluence side. Here we are in Confluence under space settings. Again, this is similar to project settings. Space access. I have anonymous access. And this is what controls if it's public or not. You'll notice that it's not turned on. So this view access is what allows people to see it. I can click on edit. And then I can allow this. So I can allow people to anonymously do things like add content or blogs or comments. This is not something I use a lot. I tend to work with internal teams. I'm also highly paranoid about giving public anonymous access because then anyone on the internet can see this thing. And that could be dangerous depending on the content. So something that we want to consider and be very careful with. But it does allow our external customers to see these articles. Are they using the new... sorry, Confluence is also updating its UI, so it's possible this screenshot is from the new UI. There are, similar to Jira, there's 3 levels of permissions to Confluence. You've got the Confluence level, which is your instance. So you either need anonymous access turned on or you have a license. But then you have the space, which is that organizational unit in the middle, and then the page at the bottom. So admins get the ability to determine if access is anonymous or not. So it's possible you might not have the ability to do it if your instance level admin has said no. All right, permissions in Confluence. So for individuals who are licensed, and I'm on that same space settings, I have a lot more control over what I can give folks. View is the ability to see it at all. So my agents would have to have view, but I might also give them the ability to add new pages, for example. Certainly I want them to do comments and attachments, but here's where you can kind of fine tune it. Yes. Be very careful with anonymous access. If they can log into the portal, then they probably are licensed and they don't need the anonymous access. And again, anonymous access is typically only for public-facing or external-facing knowledge bases, release notes, how-to articles, etc. And I don't work with anonymous very much because we're only concerned about our internal workers accessing things. Um, because they call this out in this training, I'd imagine there'll be a question or two about this on the exam. So the big thing to keep in mind is it's controlled. It can be controlled at multiple levels. You can turn on anonymous access across the entire instance or within individual spaces. Kari is saying they have teams create knowledge bases for customers that are only informational. So one approach is to have a space or even an entire instance that is only external facing. That helps ensure you don't accidentally combine them. I apologize, I'm going to mispronounce this. Ledenka. The only way to give the user the ability to edit a page when they have add permission. Yes. So I don't know if they're going to change these names, but this add permission is add and edit. So you cannot give someone the ability to create a page without also giving them the ability to edit a page. It's the same thing. You can prevent them from deleting pages, though. So usually I turn off delete, and I might give them to delete own, depending on the instance. But typically I don't. This add permission is also what lets people move content, like move pages around. So that can also be confusing. Yep, looking at our permissions. Jira Service Management, knowledge-based permissions. Do we have, oh, under admin settings. Knowledge base. This is a fun trick I learned. You can search through all the Jira admin settings. I probably should learn where these things actually are and learn how to navigate to them, but I find the search to be much quicker. We can also, oh, sorry, I'm zoomed into a corner. That was silly of me. We can also configure access to Confluence through Jira here. So we can allow the knowledge base to be accessible to anyone who's logged in. And this is, anyone is that anonymous public access. I don't know why they wouldn't call it the same thing, like anonymous or public right here. Customers are not licensed. Ladenka, I appreciate that. My challenge is I've done like singing and things in other languages, so I've learned a tiny bit of pronunciation. And I'm still always questioning and challenging myself to make sure I can say people's names properly, because there are names and they're very important. So thank you for the pass. This will probably be very important, that anonymous comment. It's available to anyone on the internet. So even Atlassian is calling this out to make sure we understand it. Also, it shows up in Google searches. So something we want to be careful of. If we don't want anyone on the internet to see it, we really need to make sure that it's controlled. Oh, I didn't know this. You can allow unlicensed Confluence users to view your space. This makes a lot of sense. Some of our customers may not be licensed, but if they aren't licensed in all logged in users imply that they have the Confluence user permission. I don't know. I think in the context of this, if they can log in and add a ticket, so if they're a knowledge-based customer, that's what this is referencing. They might be, they're a customer to put in a ticket in my service portal. I can say, hey, you have to have a license to see Confluence. Or I might say you don't need a license in Confluence, because Confluence doesn't have that concept of a customer. Usually every user is licensed and you're paying for them. But here this is suggesting, hey, no extra cost, but you can't do things like add or comment on things. So it's a bit more limited use of Confluence, which is nice, but it still gets you that access. Another important call out we probably need to consider, if we can't change the permission, there's something in Confluence overriding the knowledge base. And I'm just writing that down. Confluence overrides JSM. Site access, you won't be able to see the article, but if you have Confluence access, you can. I love how 3 people jumped in to help out Ladenka. That's awesome. Hopefully that one of those makes sense. I can try and talk through it, Ladenka, if you need a bit more in-depth on there. Who can write and edit articles? Only agents and admins or just Confluence users. Personally, I like to keep Confluence open. So my preference in all of these is just give everyone the ability to add and edit. And if they start messing things up or using it inappropriately, then I pull them back. But typically I want this wide open. Suggest articles for certain request forms. We took a quick look at this. Back into Jira real quick. Jira. Under project settings. Knowledge base down at the bottom. Let me go back to my company managed project. Knowledge base. We can control which request forms have suggestions. And again, we can filter that by label, or we can just turn it off entirely. All right, creating articles. Let's see what we got here. I do want to get to workflows today, but they've added so much on using Confluence. I was a bit surprised by the extra hour. Open your work item. Yes, issues are dead. Long live work items. Select your knowledge base, create an article, and write your article. This is something I show my team about, this little process here. I don't know how many of the people I work with actually use this, but it kind of embeds Confluence within Jira. So it lets the agents make content without having to leave Jira, which again is nice. Their job is to sit there and nail these tickets. Excuse me. So this is where if our team is trained up and has this access, they can directly from a ticket go in and add knowledge. So they make it easier for the rest of their team. Articles will look different to customers versus agents. Knowledge base, select the article. So just different ways of sharing articles. So if I go back to my project on knowledge base, I can open up the article right from here. And then there's this share on the right. This basically just copies a hyperlink to this particular thing that the customer can then see. And I'm not going to use any hotkeys because I'll crash Chrome again. But we can see I have those categories, and then also labels displayed here. I completely agree. The challenge I run into when I try and get adoption of this thing is like, it's one more thing the agent has to know. I try and sell it like, hey, look, you're going to make everyone's lives a lot easier. And this doesn't take all that much time. You can teach someone to do this in about 2 minutes. And then once they know it, they will hopefully start just giving them that information. Tips for writing knowledge base articles. Use templates. Okay, these are just high-level things we can do. And again, make your own templates. It's going to make it much easier for your team if they can just click on how to. and they don't have to fight with formatting. Using common language. This one's fun. Um, we have to consider what the customer will call the thing or how the customers talk. For example, onboard new hire, not employee orientation. And this is going to be different for every company. So this goes again beyond the, hey, here's how the system works. Things like writing clear summaries. This is where it can be very helpful if you're like the service desk manager to review all the articles made by your agents. Just to take a look at them and make sure they have the right terms or they're formatted properly. It's very easy for folks to get really excited about making these articles and they don't know really what they're doing. And then you end up with a bunch of disorganized mess. Use those categories that we saw. So if we go back in to Jira, under knowledge base, we can categorize all of these into different categories. Again, making it easier for folks to come through here and figure out what's going on or what information is what relates to our Google accounts versus our other accounts, for example. Adding labels is another important one. Where do they have us adding labels in Jira? We have to open it. Okay. So once I open up the article, I can add labels to it. Labels are just another way to categorize it. As Frank mentioned earlier, they should be fairly specific. So Google account error instead of just account or instead of just error. Because the label ties into search, and when a human looks at it, they're going to know what it's about if it's a little bit more descriptive. So labeling is another way to help with this. And reporting. What are they going to give us to in reporting? Ooh. It does come with reports. JSM does come from reports that include how well did the knowledge base help? Because this is in a blue box that pops up, this is probably something we should know. If agents view knowledge base articles using the customer-facing URL, that counts. So like any website, it's using the URL that someone types in to track who found this or what's going on. And if one of your agents uses the one that you give a customer, that's going to tick up in the report for the customer. So that can skew data. That's the important thing to think about here. We have to make sure our agents are viewing articles internally or through the knowledge base overview, not using the customer link, because it'll look like people are using the customer link more. We've got some different reports here. Request resolved shows a number of them resolved with an article, which is useful. Here's a sample. I don't have a good one to show you in my instance because I don't have a lot going on. But this is saying nothing was resolved with an article and 68 were resolved without one. I'm just kind of chuckling that they would give us an example that doesn't show us any resolved with an article. Does it tell us how... for it to be counted as an article solving the ticket, the customer has to say, yes, this helped solve my problem. And this is where I see this run into a lot of problems. If Scott uses an article and that helps him and he doesn't click, yes, that helped me, the system has no idea of knowing, and I don't know how successful it was. So I find that the articles are a little bit more successful than the report suggests, only because some people, some of the time, won't give me that feedback. Request deflected demonstrates how often customers find knowledge base useful. As I go through this study stuff, any term I see highlighted like this is something I'm going to write down and add to my study notes, because the nice people at Atlassian decided to highlight it. That tells me there's something important here. I wouldn't memorize the whole description, but I would just keep in mind, okay, it demonstrates how often customers found helpful articles. How do we improve our knowledge base? Talk to customers and figure out what's going on, dig into tickets. And again, this requires work and effort that many groups I work with choose not to put in, which drives me nuts because there's a lot of value in here. All right. And it just cycles back to the start of this particular lesson. Nice. All right, that is the top of knowledge base. What questions do y'all have about the knowledge base in here before I start on workflows, which we won't get through today, but I do want to get started. Here we go. All right, I will just keep trucking into workflows. Personally, workflows are a more confusing topic, and that is because I haven't used them as much as I've used other things. Let me just make a quick note here. All right, we're all familiar with workflows if we use Jira tickets, even if we don't call them that. They're basically the series of statuses a ticket can move through, or a work item. I'm going to call it an issue quite a bit. So here we're just going to dig in, to what they are and building a basic one. Can you version pin a page to the portal? I don't believe so, Frank. I think Confluence by default always shows the most recent version. It sounds like what your question is, could you say on the portal show version 3 of this article, even if there's updates? If that's your question, I'm unaware of any way to do that. Confluence always shows the most recent, the latest, the quote greatest version of the article, so I can't show a prior one to customers. The path the work item takes is a workflow. It has statuses, transitions, and a resolution. So this is a simple workflow. Reading this, the black dot is where we always start. Here we go. So a ticket comes in and it goes immediately to do. It then becomes in draft status. It can then go to in review, and the arrow tells me where it can go. These are transitions. From in review, it could go to approved, and then it could be complete. The gray boxes, icons, whatever they're called, are to-do statuses. The blue ones are in progress, and the green ones are done states. So at looking at this, the ticket can come in, and it can move between draft and in review endlessly because it has this circular path. And then once it's approved, it can only go to complete. So I'll recommend taking a look at workflows in your versions of Jira just to see what they look like and just to get comfortable reading them and understanding how do they flow. A status is a state of work at a particular point in the workflow. Work items can only have one status at a time, and they should be unique. I laugh at the should be unique part. I've definitely seen workflows with very similar sounding statuses, and it's incredibly confusing because you don't know if it should go to in progress or working on, etc. Here there are 5 statuses. I've got open, reopened, closed, resolved, and in progress. Transitions are some action to move between statuses. Typically, this is one directional, one way. So it goes from open to in progress. Now, if you look at this line, you'll see start progress is on the line. That's the name of that transition, and that's the button that someone sees on the ticket to move it from open to in progress. Jira will default the name of the next status. So if I don't name the transition, it's just going to be called in progress, or like move to in progress. I always recommend updating the transition names. It's a little bit more user-friendly. Oh, Matthias, there's an app called Scroll Versions. Thank you. I also don't know very many marketplace apps because I haven't been the org admin. Like, I haven't had the ability to install apps. So I've been at the mercy of the admins I work with. So I appreciate when folks share marketplace apps that do things. It just helps me learn about them. There are global transitions, which means any state can move to this state, or vice versa. Sometimes I set these up when I'm just lazy and I don't want to think through how tickets should move. Typically, though, we want to make sure we have discrete transitions. There's also a resolution field. This is a system field. It's always there, and it's instance-wide, and it's why the work item was closed. And you might have different reasons or resolutions. It was fixed. We won't do it. It's a duplicate, etc. So resolution records why the thing was closed. The status is its state in the workflow. So these are two separate ideas. Many groups conflate these two things, and they treat the status as the resolution. This is not the end of the world. It just makes things a bit muddy and a bit more challenging to work through. Here we can see when someone's closing a ticket, they set a resolution. And this is what tells the system, hey, the work was done, or I won't do it, or, we chose not to do this thing. So the status could be called anything, completed, but the resolution could be different. So something to consider as we go through this. You'll see them call it out a few times, but we should know about. The other thing is this is back to that team company split. Resolution only shows up in our company managed projects. So we'll have to rely on the status in team managed projects to record this or a custom field. Whoops, a little too far. Projects come with workflows, and these are the default workflows. This is what the nice people at Atlassian think we should have. Here's a very simple one. It goes into to do. I can then close it, or I can move it to in progress. Now, these are not global transitions. However, every status can move to every other status, so they've effectively built that. They're saying I can go from in progress to either of the two other statuses because these arrows go in two directions. But for the purpose of the exam, just know there are default workflows that come, and they'll vary by project type and product. So you'll see different default workflows depending on what project you're setting up. There's something called the simplified workflow. It's a workflow that uses those global transitions. And this is what you'll see if a global transition is set up. It's saying every status can move into to do. Every status can move into done. Every status can move into in progress. This is doing the same exact thing as this in terms of being able to move between statuses. Typically, workflows have more than 3 statuses. And that's where you'll see that global transition used a little bit more because you always want the ticket to go back to do, but maybe you don't have the global transition to done and in progress. It's got to go to in progress first and then to done for some reason. So this is that simplified workflow. Everything can go everywhere anytime you want. Every project with a Scrum or Kanban template uses the simplified workflow. Because this is called out in a box, this is something I wrote down on my study notes. There's no transition screens, which we'll talk about next time, and no conditions to its transitions. So again, it's a simple workflow. Just move the ticket from state to state. You can, however, build your own custom workflows, and this is what I see teams typically do. Especially if you need things to happen when a ticket changes status, when it transitions, if there are certain conditions that have to be met before the ticket can be moved, if the user needs to put in certain information or certain information has to be on the ticket, or if there's some kind of automated thing that has to happen. And this is probably where you're going to build a workflow from scratch just to meet the needs of your team. Another call out, workflows and schemes are the two things in my mind that separate our company and team managed projects. So in a team managed project, as the project admin, I can go in and make a new workflow. I can change it whenever I want. I can do anything to it. However, there are some things I can't do. There's no resolutions, there's no transition screens, and I can't easily use the same workflow for multiple work types. So I get the ability to go in and change it when I want, add new statuses, change transitions. However, I can't do everything that an admin on a company managed project can do. A Jira admin is required to manage those company managed projects. Now, project admins in a company managed project can do some things. We can configure it in the board by associating statuses to columns, and we can rename the customer facing name of the workflow statuses, but we can't do much else. We can't add statuses. We can't add transitions or change them. We're stuck with whatever the workflow scheme dictates can happen. And this is where my job as a project admin was frustrating because I had to go find the Jira admin and explain what I needed. And that's why this course was very useful for me or something like it. Company managed projects do have transition screens, which are very useful. So when a user clicks move to a new status, a screen can pop up soliciting information. That can be very useful just to collect information to make sure required fields are actually filled in. And something that I use quite a bit and that I miss in the team managed projects that I happen to have. Is this a good stopping point? This is a good stopping point. Awesome. So we got through what are workflows. We'll pick up next time with create basic workflows. And I think I have one more slide somewhere in here for us. No? No, I lied. Well, I'll see if I can find that slide without crashing Chrome. Next Monday, I will be at Team 25. That's Atlassian's big regular conference. If you're going to Team, please let me know. I would love to see you there. I'll have a lot of free time. I tend to go to conferences both to learn the information, but also to meet folks. Because for me, you can all see and hear me. I can't see and hear all y'all. So if you're at Team, come find me. I'll share my information right here. But pop me an email, and I'll also drop my LinkedIn information into the chat just so you can find me on LinkedIn. But if you're going to Team, please let me know. I'll be involved in a couple of events as well, so you'll see me over at the Aura App Anvil booth doing a Confluence challenge. So if you want a chance to prove you know more about me than Confluence, which you probably do, please come by and challenge. I'll also be putting out regular videos during Team. So if you can't make it and there's a topic you want me to go ask people about or something you're curious in seeing, let me know and I'll go, do a short video for you. Atlassian Mojo, how do I look you up? Is your first name Atlassian? That is very convenient. Where is... Hang on, I just need this. There we go. That's my LinkedIn link. Please use that to reach out. And one other update on our page. I've added more flashcards to the ACP-420 page to cover workflows. So if you go to this page down at the bottom, there's now a category for workflows. And this covers most of that section we just spoke about. I'll be updating this more as I go, but this is what I'll be using to figure these things out. And of course, we also have the Discord server going if you want to jump in there and chat and meet folks. There's about 40 folks in there right now, mostly talking about Confluence, so please come on in and balance them out with some Jira knowledge. Scott, you're very welcome. And again, please let me know if there's a topic or something you want me to go, interview people about or investigate or find. I'll be happy to go ask around. Aaron. Good to meet your official name? Non-screen name. There we go. Other than that, folks, we will pick up again on, April 14th. So 2 weeks from today. We'll just continue with workflows. We will be able to sign up for the exam starting on April 15th. They'll have the new version of the exam ready. So I will be registering as soon as I can so I can get a date. I'll probably try and take the exam sometime in April. I just want to get it out of the way. I will continue the study sessions, though. After ACP 420, the numbers are really confusing. I think we do, Frank. Pop into the general channel. After the 420, I will be asking around to what professional level should we do next. There's 5 or 6 of them now, so I just want to pick up one more and just keep learning them as we go. So if you have a specific one you are curious about or want to dig into next, even if you don't want to take the exam itself, if you just want to learn the content, let me know and I'll put together something kind of like this. I also have ideas on how to make these better and more informative. So as we go, it'll hopefully get more useful to all of you. But I do want to thank you all for sticking around and learning about connecting a knowledge base to Jira and workflows. Again, nothing I ever thought I would be talking to people about for an hour every morning. But I'm glad you all are here. It's made it much easier for me to learn this stuff and to keep going knowing that I have a team also learning with me. Please drop any other questions you have. Please like the video if you could. Just hit that little thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. And be on the lookout for more. Again, let me know what you want from Team. Thank you again so much, and I will see you all again sometime soon. And that was very poor dramatic timing. I need to get this outro video set up. Okay, have a great Monday, all.